Gonzaga just offered the best high school basketball player in the state of Washington as Mark Few's aggressive recruiting strategy continues.
You are Locked On Zags, your daily podcast on the Gonzaga Bulldogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on, y'all? Welcome into the Locked On Zags podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host and longtime Gonzaga podcaster, Andy Patton, here to bring you news and updates on all things Zag athletics. Today's episode of Locked On Zags is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $150 in bonus bets when your first bet of $5 or more wins. Well, Nolan Hickman made his summer league debut on Monday. We're going to break that down, including the role he played for the Dallas Mavericks. On3/Rivals has updated their 2027 class rankings. We saw a few of the players Gonzaga's connected to move rapidly up and rapidly down in their rankings. So we'll talk about what that means for them in conjunction with the latest recruiting update for this Gonzaga program, which is how we're going to start today's show. So we got an update on Tuesday early afternoon. The Zags have officially made their second offer in the 2027 recruiting class, this one going to 6'2" guard Jalen Davis. Jalen Davis currently plays at Bremerton High School, so he is a local kid in the state of Washington. He is currently the 34th ranked player in the 2027 class. That is according to 247 Sports and 247 Sports' composite rankings, which averages all of the major recruiting services rankings. We'll talk a bit more about the On3 and Rivals rankings in the second segment of the show, but Jalen Davis is a highly regarded player in this 2027 class. He's a four-star recruit. He's the 9th ranked point guard in the 2027 class and the top ranked player in the state of Washington. So for rising high school juniors, of course, the rising high school seniors are the 2026 class. We know Gonzaga's got a lot of targets there. But for the rising high school juniors, Jalen Davis is the best or highest ranked one in the state of Washington. His father, Mia Davis, also played at Bremerton High School and, in fact, started his college career at the junior college level, but actually spent the final 2 seasons of his college career at Pacific, which was not in the WCC at the time. Pacific was in the Big West at this time, but he was a member of the Tigers Club. And in fact, over 2 seasons with Pacific, he averaged 12.5 points and 3 assists per game. Was a very good 3-point shooter. So you got to hope there's a little bit of his dad's game in Jalen Davis. And so far, the early scouting reports and everything certainly point to a player who could break what is now a 20-year streak for Bremerton High School of not having a single player elevate to the high major level of Division I basketball. The last time that happened was Marvin Williams, who was, of course, a tremendous high school and college basketball player back in the early 2000s. And so Jalen Davis hoping to break that streak and end up playing D1 high major basketball. It sure seems like he's got a good chance of doing so after picking up this offer from Gonzaga. 247 Sports lists the following schools as having made an offer to Jalen Davis: Washington, Washington State, Stanford, Montana, and Seattle University. Davis himself has posted when he gets offers on social media. So there's a couple other ones that he has posted that have not made their way onto the 247 website. That includes Gonzaga, who I think as the latest refresh shows up on 247 sites, but Weber State made him an offer a few weeks ago. San Francisco made him an offer, as well as LMU. So a couple of WCC schools in the mix here, not just USF, LMU, but also Gonzaga, Seattle U, and for now, Washington State. Also, New Mexico in the Mountain West has made an offer to Jalen Davis as well. The fit at Gonzaga, obviously, it's always good when you see Gonzaga recruiting in the state of Washington. I think they occasionally draw criticism for not being able to recruit or land some of the high-profile players in Washington. I'm not sure I buy that criticism. Nolan Hickman was a highly regarded Washington prospect. Yeah, they didn't get Paolo Banchero, but when you miss a guy to Duke and your consolation prize is Chet Holmgren, I think you're feeling okay about that if you're Gonzaga. And certainly Washington under the Lorenzo Romar era was exceptional at recruiting in-state players and just not good at winning with said in-state players. So it's nice to see Gonzaga kind of going back to recruiting some guys here in the state of Washington, and Jalen Davis, again, as of right now, being the most highly regarded player in that rising junior class is certainly a good sign. He's rocketed up the rankings. Again, we'll talk about that with the on-3 ranking for him, but he played extremely well this summer circuit, which is kind of what has helped put him more on the map as a prospect. He's a very, very good shooter. He was playing for Beauchamp Elite's 16U squad and really flashed the ability to knock down outside shots, to get to his spots offensively. He's really good off the dribble. And I think if you're looking for like elements of his game to improve upon or to see some growth in the next couple of years before he starts college ball, it would be his ability to play without the basketball in his hands, move without the ball, be able to make things happen as a cutter, things defensively, just things on that side of the ball. But when he has the ball in his hands, Jalen Davis is excellent, and he's showed that. He also showed some really good athleticism. Was described as explosive in a handful of scouting reports and a few videos that you watch. You can see where that comes from. And this is a kid who's very far from filled out. He's probably not going to grow a whole lot more. He's a bit undersized at 6'2". And again, if you're going to choose between a player who's already got good on-ball skills or off-ball skills, you probably want your 6'2" guys to be good on the ball, because that's the role he's likely going to play at the next level. So the fact that he's already kind of shown those skills to be somebody who's a primary ball handler, facilitator, scorer, three-point shooter is all very good. He needs to get stronger. Most 15, I guess he's probably 16 now. Most 16, 17-year-olds need to get stronger. That's not an entirely new thing. But the fact that he already has that kind of explosive first step, explosive ability to get to the rim and elevate up above the rim is fantastic. And as he gets a little stronger and a little bit more physically imposing, hopefully that athleticism not only stays where it's at, but continues to improve, and he can be an even higher level athlete at the next level. For Gonzaga, this is, again, their second offer in the 2027 class, their first being Baba Oladotun, who is the number 4 ranked player in the 2027 class. He was as high as number 1 at times. He's kind of floated right around the top 5. 6'9", small forward from Maryland. Lots of interest for Baba Oladotun. It's encouraging to see Gonzaga make an early offer to a player at that caliber in that 2027 class. Zags also interested in another 4-star prospect in the 2027 class in Dooney Johnson from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 6'5", 4-star guard, kind of a combo point guard, shooting guard. We're going to talk a little bit more about Oladotun and Dooney Johnson in the second segment, but we've also seen Gonzaga be very active in the 2026 recruiting class. There's not any significant updates there, but just as kind of a reminder for folks who are mixing up the classes or want to know what the latest is on those 2026 recruits. Gonzaga has made offers to 4 players in the 2026 class. That would be center Sam Funches, forward Cam Holmes, forward Hurley Brutus, and guard Ikenna Alozie. Funches is set to visit Gonzaga for Craziness in the Kennel over October 3rd through 5th. He is a 7-foot center from Mississippi. Ikenna Alozie is a top 10 ranked player in the 2026 class, one of the best point guards in the class. He has listed Gonzaga in his top 8. Really, really competitive group of schools that are interested in Alozie, but he would be one of few 5-stars to ever come to Gonzaga, so it's a good sign that they're still on the list there. The Zags are said to be pursuing Cam Holmes, the younger brother of Oklahoma City Thunder forward Day'Ron Holmes. Gonzaga is reportedly very interested in Cameron Holmes and is kind of making a pretty aggressive pursuit to bring him in. He's a super athletic forward, very, very good player who's been rising up the ranks. So I think he's definitely a name to keep an eye on here. And then Hurley Brutus, a fairly recent offer from Gonzaga, really, really good three-point shooter, and another player who's rising up the ranks in that 2026 class. Zags have also been connected to Tyron Stokes, the number 1 player in the 2026 class, as well as Tony Bryant and Dean Ruckert. None are viewed as being super likely to end up at Gonzaga, but Tyron Stokes in particular would be an incredible coup for Gonzaga if they were able to find a way to make it work. But Louisville, Kentucky, Kansas, Arkansas, Oregon have been very involved in Stokes' recruiting, and it might be tough to pry him away from those programs. Well, Davis, since we're still on him, he's one of the biggest risers in the 2027 class. However, Gonzaga's other 2 targets in that class fell in Rivals' updated class rankings. We're going to discuss why and what it means for this program coming up in just a second. But first, folks, the summer sports, they are in full swing. So whether you're all about watching some baseball under the lights, getting out on the green and getting some golfing in, or high-stakes soccer action, FanDuel is the best way to make every game just a little bit more exciting. You're already following the action, so why not make it a little bit more thrilling? With FanDuel, you can get in on the game action while your friends are getting sunburned out on the beach. You can use FanDuel to track your favorite matchups, and the app keeps it fresh with new daily promotions and fun ways to bet. It's easy to use, fast to pay out, and makes even regular season games feel like must-watch events. So whether you're placing a same-game parlay or watching a bet right out into the ninth inning, FanDuel makes it feel like you're part of the action. And good news, folks, FanDuel's Wooden Award odds for 2026 finally came out. Graham Ike, highest odds for a Gonzaga player, plus 4,800 for him to take home the Wooden Award. Only 13 players higher than him in those rankings. Tyon Grant Foster also on the list at plus 12,000 if you're feeling real juicy about what Grant Foster brings to Spokane. Folks, if you're new to FanDuel, new customers can bet just $5 and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if that first bet wins. So open the FanDuel app today or visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. All right, folks, segment 2, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. And we're still talking recruiting here on the show. We talked about 4-star guard Jalen Davis from Bremerton, Washington, who Gonzaga made an offer to on Tuesday afternoon. And so now we're going to talk about Davis as well as the 2 other players that Gonzaga has been connected to up to this point in the 2027 recruiting class, because Rivals/On3, and I'll get to that in a second, updated their class rankings for 2027 on Tuesday. For those who maybe missed this storyline, we didn't really touch on it much here on the show, but On3 and Rivals were 2 of the 4 major recruiting services. It's On3, Rivals, ESPN, and 247 Sports. However, On3 and Rivals have merged into one company, meaning we only have effectively, Rivals is still the high school recruiting wing of the site, whereas On3 is going to focus more on transfer portal stuff. That's a really boilerplate way to explain it, but it's kind of the explanation that they have given, at least. It does mean that we're down to having 3 major recruiting services with On3 and Rivals combining theirs together. But they released their 2027 updated recruiting rankings for this class. It's their second full kind of update after watching some live periods, some in-person player evaluations, some more film. This is their first update that has up to 150 names. We're still at the point where it's pretty early to be doing a lot of super serious evaluation on 2027. Like, I think if you're talking about the top names, top guys, you know, they're starting to separate a little bit, and that always happens at this point. Like, if you're like AJ Dibansa was pretty clearly a top player in his class by this point. Chet Holmgren, obviously, for his example, like if you're one of the best, you've already started to separate yourself. But the difference between a player who's maybe ranked like, let's say 19th in the recruiting class and 50th in the recruiting class is fairly small at this point, to the point where a couple of bad weeks in a summer circuit on the EYBL could move you as many as 30, 40, 50 spots in the rankings. And it's less so like, oh, that kid's way worse than we thought, and more so like, oh, we finally got a chance to see him against more legitimate competition, and this is what we thought. And it's just, I mean, we're talking about 16-year-olds. Like, there's just tons of growth. Some players stall out height-wise. They don't fill out. Like, it's just one of those things where it's going to change so dramatically. So with all those caveats, here's where we're at with the 3 players Gonzaga's pursuing in the 2027 class and where they were in the On3/Rivals updated rankings. Baba Oladotun went from 4th to 6th in Rivals' updated rankings. He was again number 1 at one point, so he's fallen a little bit, fell into just inside the top 5, is now just outside the top 5. This is more about players moving up ahead of him. He has not been playing poorly or anything like that. I think they just, Rivals kind of found some other guys that they like a little bit more than him at this point. Oladutun's a 6'8", 6'9" small forward from Silver Spring, Maryland. He is listed at, and I thought this was a typo, but he is listed at 6'8", 165 pounds. According to Rivals, 247 lists him at 6'9", 175, so not a significant difference. I believe one of the scouting reports, and I apologize for not remembering who wrote this line, but they said that he needs to have a few more burgers before he can even be called skinny. This dude is pencil thin. And I would imagine that is going to factor into his evaluation at this point, knowing full well that 16-year-olds are probably going to fill out muscularly, physically from this point. Again, Tyron Stokes, to use him as an example, since Gonzaga has been connected to two of the best small forwards in the 26 and 27 class. Tyron Stokes, who's a year older than Oladotun, is 6'7", 245 pounds. He is built like a Mack truck. That is unusual. But for Oladotun to be only a year younger, a little bit taller, and 90 pounds lighter, I guess 80 pounds lighter, whatever, that is still an insane difference. And unless Oladotun proves definitively that he can put some weight on, yes, I know we dealt with this with Chet, but Chet was 7 feet tall with insanely long arms and was highly productive. Oladotun needs to get stronger. He needs to get bigger. Again, we are talking about a 16-year-old, so the odds of that happening are extremely high. It would be insanely weird if it didn't happen, but it is part of the evaluation for him currently. The upside, though, is so high. He's an extremely fluid athlete, very, very good scorer, can get to his spots pretty seamlessly. We do want to see more of him against high-level competition, but we still got a couple of years of that. Obviously, Gonzaga getting involved early in a player who's already rated this highly. Gonzaga tends to, when they're early on recruits, they tend to be early on guys who are borderline top 100 guys who kind of climb all the way up. So for Gonzaga to be early invested in a player who's already ranked this highly, pretty good sign that they think there's a lot of upside here in what he can bring to this team. Oladutun's got offers all over the place: UCLA, Maryland, Michigan, Indiana, Arkansas, Texas, USC, Kentucky, LSU. That's just some of them. There are many, many others. So Gonzaga will have plenty of competition for this 6'8" skinny forward from Maryland. Jalen Davis was 68th in Rivals' first 2027 class rankings. In their updated one, he is 17th, so he moved up over 50 spots. Like I said, he's 34th in 247 Sports' class rankings, but he is 17th in Rivals' rankings. So that is a huge, huge, huge growth, huge climb for Jalen Davis. We're not going to spend a much more time talking about him because we've already talked about him throughout the first segment. But it is worth noting that Rivals lists him as a shooting guard, whereas 247 lists him as a point guard. That they very frequently have different positions, so I wouldn't read too much into that, but it is something to note for him. And then you have Dooney Johnson. So you have Baba Oladotun, who barely moved at all. Jalen Davis, who climbed 50 spots. So it's a little bit of a this one's too high, this one's too low, this one's just right. Oladotun was just right. Jalen Davis was too low. Dooney Johnson, according to the rankings, was too high. They had him 39th in their first 2027 class rankings. Their recent update, he was down at 74, so he fell nearly 35 spots from his previous ranking. Still a four-star guard, still ranked in the top 20 among point guards in the class, but the industry's real split on Dooney Johnson right now. Rivals has him 74th, 247 Sports has him 45th, ESPN has him 28th. Huge discrepancy on how to rank Dooney Johnson at this point. He's a 6'5" guard who can play the 1 or the 2, and I think that's part of it. Is like, are you viewing him as a jumbo-sized point guard? Because if so, maybe you like the upside a little bit more. Whereas if you're viewing him as a shooting guard and you're like, well, I'm not sure he has the offensive kind of firepower to play off the ball, maybe you're a little bit lower on him. A lot of schools very invested in Dooney Johnson. Again, as a reminder, Gonzaga has contacted Johnson, but there's no formal indication that they have made him an offer at this point. Marquette, however, has. So has Wisconsin, Cincy, Mizzou, Nebraska, LSU, SMU, lots of other schools that are very invested in Dooney Johnson. So a name to keep an eye on for Gonzaga, but until they make a formal offer, he's probably somebody kind of more on the periphery of Gonzaga's radar at this point. But also just point out, there are 3 top 150 recruits from the state of Washington, according to Rivals' updated rankings, one of them, of course, being Jalen Davis. The other 2 are 3 stars. Keandre Morris from Curtis High School, the same high school as Zoom Diallo. He is 131st. And then Jimmy Haywood from Garfield is last at 150th. So I wouldn't expect Gonzaga to pursue any other players in this class from the state of Washington, but always kind of like to see how the talent level is in the state when looking at these recruiting class rankings. Speaking of Seattle area guards who went to Gonzaga, Nolan Hickman made his NBA debut and played point guard for the Dallas Mavericks in Summer League. Could it help his chances of sticking at the next level? We're going to talk about that to close out the show coming up in just a second. All right, folks, segment 3, still Andy Patton, still Locked On Zags podcast. We're closing out the show as we've done throughout the last couple of days here on the Locked On Zags podcast. We're talking Summer League. Still got 4 days left of Summer League here, and we've got so many different Gonzaga players who are participating. So I want to try to give daily updates on how everybody's doing and get you kind of a look ahead at the games coming up. Recording this right now about 5 p.m., a little before 5 p.m. on Tuesday evening. So a few games have yet to be played tonight, or one game, the Memphis Grizzlies and Jeremy Jones, has yet to be played tonight. But we do have an update on how Timme and Anton Watson are doing in their game, but I'm going to wait because that game is almost over. So hopefully I'll be able to have a live update for you at the end of the game. But on Monday, the Dallas Mavericks played against the Charlotte Hornets. So that means both Ryan Nembhard and Nolan Hickman got to play. First NBA action for Nolan Hickman, who was a DNP in Dallas's first couple of games. We'll start with Nembhard, though. He had 11 points and 8 assists, 3 rebounds, and 3 turnovers in 25 minutes. In this game, 2 of 5 on his 2-point attempts, but he did go 2 of 3 from 3 and 1 of 2 from the free throw line. Nembhard is one of, I think he's second or third in the entire summer league in total assists and in assists per game. He's been absolutely fantastic at doing what he does best. It's nice to see him knock down those outside shots too. If there's anything else Nembhard can do that will really help him from a summer league perspective, it's knocking down those threes. Obviously, you want to see him play good defense, but even if he does look good defensively, he's still limited just by his size and wingspan and strength as an NBA caliber defender. So if he's playing well defensively, it's not going to help him all that much because it's going to be viewed as like, well, he's doing that against G League guys or summer league guys. But knocking down the threes is going to really help him. And he has been doing that while, of course, showcasing his trademark floor vision and lobs and all the other things that he does exceptionally well. Nolan Hickman played 7 minutes. Again, his first summer league action for the Mavericks. Had 3 points and 3 boards. He also had 2 turnovers. He was 0 of 2 on 2-point attempts, but he did get 1 3-point attempt coming off of a screen. And I'm not sure what the defender was doing. I watched this highlight a bunch of times, and it kind of just looks like the defender got completely lost or forgot what he was supposed to do. And Hickman very wisely realized he had a wide open look and knocked it down. If there's one thing we know Nolan Hickman's going to be able to do, it's knock down wide open threes. So I'm glad he made it, but that's certainly not one of the most difficult shot he's ever taken in his career. Let's put it that way. It was nice to see, though, when Hickman was on the floor, he was primarily playing point guard. He was operating out of the one. And I say it's nice to see because Dallas is going to give him a look. Unfortunately, if they're playing him at the one, they're kind of looking at him as competition against Ryan Nembhard, and that is frankly not going to go well for Nolan Hickman. I think we can safely say that. But for Dallas, like if they or anybody is viewing Hickman as, we don't think he's a point guard at all, we just think he's a 2 guard, 6'3" 2 guards is really tough to make it. The way that other Gonzaga players who are 6'3" 2 guards have been treated, most of them have not gotten a look. RISER Bolton is in Italy. Malachi Smith has played in the G League, but has not stuck at the NBA level. And so for Hickman, like getting a chance to run the point at least gives him an opportunity to try to showcase that those skills are there and see if maybe that can result in him getting a longer look or at least an Exhibit 10 contract, a chance to compete in training camp or a guaranteed spot on a G League roster. Again, it's 7 minutes of action in a blowout game here, so we can't read too much into it, but I think it's encouraging that they gave him that opportunity. Boston did play on Monday, but Ben Gregg did not. He was another DNP. He has played a total of 2 minutes in Summer League so far. I think this is probably a product of signing a contract with the French team overseas before starting Summer League. I'm not blaming Ben for that decision. It's probably the decision I would have made. But if I'm the Boston Celtics and I have 18, 19, whatever players on my Summer League roster, and it's a chance for me to give some guys kind of deeper on the bench a chance to prove themselves, I'm probably going to pick the guys who don't have a guaranteed contract somewhere else because I want to get a better evaluation of them and what they could potentially bring to Boston than somebody like Ben Gregg. It's nothing against Ben, obviously. Just I think Ben made a reasonable decision. I think the Boston Celtics are making a fairly reasonable decision by not giving him a ton of run. Caleb Battle, after starting for Phoenix, I think on Sunday and scoring 7 points, he played about 9 minutes on Monday, had 5 points for Phoenix, a rebound, an assist, and a pair of turnovers. He was 1 of 1 on 2-point attempts and 1 of 2 on 3-point attempts in that game. Getting you the update now on the Brooklyn Nets versus New York Knicks game between Drew Timme and Anton Watson. I know we saw a chance for those two guys to see each other and interact with each other. They were both standing at the free throw line at the same time, which was kind of fun before Drew got subbed out. Not only are they both former teammates, but they were really, really close friends. So it's always fun to see those two guys get a chance to interact. Game is complete here. Drew Timme finished the game with what is definitely his worst summer league game, but this is not necessarily a bad thing because Drew had 19 points and 9 rebounds with 3 assists, 3 turnovers, and a block. He was only 7 of 18 from the field. That was 0 of 4 from 3, so 7 of 14 on 2-pointers, 0 of 4 from 3, 5 of 7 from the free throw line. There is one thing to critique on Drew's performance. His three-point shooting has not been great. He was 3 of 10 coming into this game, now 0 of 4, so he's down to 25%. Obviously a minuscule sample size, but there's also many, many years of history to indicate that Drew Timme is not a particularly great three-point shooter, so you'd like to see that start to improve for him. Anton Watson got a good run in this game too. We were kind of a little down on Anton because the Knicks weren't giving him any playing time and he just wasn't getting opportunities to even kind of prove himself, but he played nearly 20 minutes in this game and looked great, looked outstanding. 10 points for Anton in this game, 4 of 5 shooting. That includes 1 of 1 from 3. So he was 3 of 3 on his 2-pointers, knocked down 1 of his 2 3-point attempts, also 1 of 2 from the free throw line, had a pair of rebounds and an assist, 1 turnover in this one. He was plus 14 in a game that the Knicks, did they win? The Knicks did win this game, and he was plus 14. Nobody else on the team was higher than that. In fact, as I'm looking at the box score right now, none of the other players were even plus 10 or higher. And so Watson being plus 14, again, single game, plus minus doesn't mean a ton, but for a player like Anton who's desperately trying to prove that he deserves a two-way contract or at least an Exhibit 10 and a chance to compete in Summer League, going out and putting up the best plus minus on the team is definitely going to help you out. Knocking down three-point shots is going to help Watson. We know he does so many different things well, so it's encouraging to see him play well in this game. Again, don't have the results of Jeremy Jones and the Memphis Grizzlies, who are playing at 7:30 p.m. on Tuesday night, a few hours from now as I'm recording this. But for those of you who are looking ahead for other Summer League games to keep an eye on, Wednesday, July 16th, Caliph Battle and the Suns play at 2 Pacific time. Drew Timme and the Nets play at 4:30 Pacific time. I wouldn't guarantee that Drew will play in that game. I think there's a good chance that they're going to start holding him out because what else does he really need to prove? And then Nolan Hickman and the Dallas Mavericks play at 5 p.m. Pacific time. All those games again on Wednesday. Thursday, Watson and the Knicks play at 1:30. Jeremy Jones and the Memphis Grizzlies play at 3. And then Ben Gregg and the Boston Celtics play at 6. All right, folks, that's going to wrap it up for me today here on the Locked On Zags podcast. Thank you so much. To those of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the day, I got more fun stuff coming your way later this week, more recruiting updates, more Summer League updates, everything else that we can get to on Locked On Zags, we will. I've been having a lot of fun with this, so appreciate all of you. And thank you to those of you who have hit that subscribe button on YouTube. If you haven't done so yet, just go to YouTube, search Locked On Zags, find that little bell button. It's very helpful for me. It's a way for you to get notified every time there's a new show. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers. We're getting pretty close, so any help there is appreciated. Thanks again, folks, for listening. Have a fantastic rest of your day. And of course, as always, go Zags.